But first, in our spotlight today, the word that's become so ubiquitous, the Wall Street Journal argued this week we should stop using it altogether. Cyber. It's simply too big and ever-present, impacting everything from bingo games to building battleships. Well, here in Washington, no one's about to stop talking about the huge industry growing around it. Cybersecurity. It's a growing threat that can make or break your business. Here to talk about why so many businesses, large and small, are still getting it wrong and where the industry is headed, two top voices, Allen Shay, CEO and president of Baltimore-based tech company CyberSpa, and Donald Tye, cybersecurity expert and adjunct professor at GW University. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. You know, we could do a half-hour show every week talking about the business of cybersecurity, so we only get about 6 minutes today. Allen, I'm going to start with you. You've been looking at small businesses, you've worked in big business, you've worked at Raytheon, you've worked at Sprint, but your company CyberSpa can help small businesses get it right when it comes to cybersecurity. What's the biggest mistake small businesses are making getting it wrong?
Well, I think the biggest mistake is they're counting on or expecting the government or the larger industry to solve the problem. And quite frankly, that's just not happening. There are things that they can do proactively to start to address cybersecurity at a small business or even at a consumer level. You
say not just things they can do, things they have to do.
Things they should do.
If they want to protect the home front.
Yes.
Donald, big businesses, you've worked at Homeland Security, you've worked for big cyber companies. Now you're a consultant looking at big and small. But from the big company perspective, what's the biggest mistake they're still making, because they're getting hacked right and left?
Well, one of the mistakes that companies are making is thinking that cyber is an industry, but that's not our industry, so we don't need to worry about it. But in fact, all critical infrastructures are covered. Whether you're in food processing or financial services, manufacturing, you need to be protecting your systems.
Donna, I thought the Wall Street Journal made a really good point, and that's exactly what you're saying. Like, forget calling anything cyber. It's all cyber now. Allen, one of the points that I've heard people make when it comes to small businesses and cybersecurity is you're using your smartphone for everything from payment options to running your company to running your home. We'll set that aside, but tell us some of the steps that you tell small businesses they need to really be thinking about when it comes to cybersecurity.
Well, one of the things that people are still counting on the personal computer as their primary engine for communicating, doing work, connecting to the internet, exchanging documents, etc. So one of the things that we are focusing on in our work with small business and also into the consumer side of the industry is getting people to understand that they need to be proactive and take steps. They don't have to be expensive, but they have to be steps proactively taken to protect their data, to protect their systems from compromise.
You've been very successful at startups with high tech, and now CyberSpa is growing fast. One of the mantras of CyberSpa is fresh start.
Right.
Are you talking about the fresh start of getting it right?
Yeah, the fresh start that we're referring to is actually fairly simple. Most computers are built to last 8 to 10 years. We all know with malware and viruses and all the issues that are out there today, those machines are slowing down and being compromised after 2, 3, or 4 years, and they're being replaced needlessly. What Fresh Start is a technology that we developed to be able to actually do hard drive replacement, replace the software with clean new software, make sure that all the files go back to where they are at a cost that's a fraction of what hard drive replacement used to cost.
A day at the spa. Donald, let's talk about some of the trends that you've talked about in cybersecurity. One of the things that you've talked about that's so important here in Washington is the private sector and the government don't just have an opportunity to work together, they're going to have to work together.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost not just a partnership, which it formally is, and I think will continue to grow, which we'll touch on, but also sort of getting out of each other's way, because I think that there's been times where businesses have been hesitant to share information with the government because there's been lack of clarity on liability issues. How's it going to get shared? Will they still have confidentiality for competitive reasons?
Who can fix that? Is it the head of an agency that needs to fix that? Is it Congress that needs to fix that?
Well, it has to be collaborative, and so the bit of good news that we've seen so far is there's been a tremendous amount of movement since some White House leadership initiated about 2 years ago in February 2013 with an executive order. And then February in 2014, the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, began leading a very robust, thousands of participants, large businesses, small and individuals, coming together to identify what the core competencies should be for people trying to tackle their problems. And I think if I could just push back on the Wall Street Journal fear-mongering, I'll call it, about saying don't use the word cyber, I disagree strongly because we have to acknowledge how ubiquitous data is in our lives.
But you get their point. Their point is it's so ubiquitous,
everywhere.
let's just assume we don't want to call it cyber bingo. It's just going to be bingo that now we play online.
That's right. Everyone needs to be participating. And I think there's more of a parallel in some ways than a difference between small businesses and even individuals with their own, protecting their own data and computers, all the way up to large businesses, which is you need transparency into where you are and where you ought to be with standards and protection, and then you can map out the steps much more easily.
Okay, I told you this segment was going to go too fast to talk about everything we wanted to talk about. We've only got 30 seconds left for each of you. Donald, the most important takeaways. You talk about something called the Snowden effect. What are the most important takeaways people need to be thinking about in terms of cybersecurity? Snowden effect? Well,
there's two great lessons that every business should take away, and frankly, going back even farther to WikiLeaks, those are both insider threats. And yet, the second lesson is we need to monitor our data protection, individualize what protocols you have around data sets so you can prioritize what you need to protect most carefully and with most the greater investment.
Alan, biggest takeaways?
Biggest takeaways, small business, consumer, it doesn't matter. Local, hard drive, backup storage. Keep your data in an extra place.
Oh, I wanted to get into that, whether we should be using cloud or local. You say?
Use local. Use
local.
Yes.
We're going to have both of you back because this has just opened up a whole other line of questioning, or we'll just have to hire your services.
Great day. Good to see you back.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And when we return, a small local business that has not only gone national, but caught the attention of the next generation of automobiles, the connected car. Stay with us.